We'll just look straight ahead or
Am I
at each
supposed
other.
to look so you're too ugly to look at. Now I'm pretty, so anyway,
Exactly,
no,
exactly.
no. Anyway, we're here finally. I don't know how many
So
months it's been to do.
we've got our founder and owner, Kevin Pipes here. And Kevin, you've got some amazing stories. We were just talking about it with Chase and with Isaac, some incredible stories of your history in building this business, but also what you've done for the industry. And we've got some really cool stuff on the table to talk
Well,
about
I
today.
don't
And
know about cool stuff, but yeah, this is knife.
Tales of the Knife Trader.
Tales of the Knife Trader. Thank you. That's what happens when you get old, you know. Tales of the Knife Trader Part 2. And I hope you watched episode 1 where we talked about
Yep.
Turbo. This particular episode is going to be called The Midnight Ride in the Blue Goose for the $1 Million Knife.
Wow.
Because one of the first knives that we ever did to have tremendous success was the Rambo 3 knife. And I found out about Sylvester Stallone going to do Rambo 3 about December the 5th or 6th. I got a call from the guy that owned the Knife World magazine, Houston Price, and he said, Kevin, he said, Gil Hibben has just signed a deal with Sylvester Stallone to make the Rambo 3 movie, and you ought to license that knife. And I'm like, wow, who would I talk to? And he said, well, you need to talk to Linda and Gil Hibben, and they live in Louisville, Kentucky, and you better snatch it up before somebody else does. And I'm like, yeah, man, that'd be great, because the other two Rambo knives were such an iconic knife to the knife industry that it was unbelievable. So I'm like on the phone and I'm calling, and they said, well, when can you be here? And I said, well, it's about December 18th or 19th. And they said, well, we're going to be busy until the 24th. And I said, well, that's fine. I'll just come up there on Christmas Eve. And they said, okay, you know, and I said, I'll bring a contract. And so I went up there and I got Matt Turner to go with me. And I was driving. Well, you got to get the car in there, you know. I was driving at the time an old Chevrolet, what do they call it? The big long cars like my Escalade, the Suburban.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was driving an old blue Suburban, and I called it the Blue Goose because you know all cars have got have a name. I used to have a Volkswagen when I was in college. It was a little white Beetle, and I called it the White Rabbit. And man, I'd get in the White Rabbit, and I'd be trucking home from East Tennessee State back to Kingston. But anyway, so I loaded up Matt. We got in the Blue Goose. We flew to Louisville, Kentucky. We got there, and we're talking to Linda and Gil, and they're like, Linda was kind of hesitant. She's like, well, now Gil's going to make 100 of these knives, and he's going to sell them for $1,000 a piece, and we don't want a commercial knife to interfere with that. And I said, well, what if I buy 20 of your knives and then we do this deal? And I guarantee you, I forget how much upfront money, but you know, and then a 10% royalty. And she said, well, we'll have to talk about it. So they go in the back, they talk about it, and they said, well, would you buy 25 of them? And I'm like, of course I'll buy 25. So we signed the deal. We jumped back in the Blue Goose and we're riding down the road, and all of a sudden the Blue Goose did a hiccup. And I'm like, God. And then the oil light comes on, and I'm like, oh God. And Matt Turner's sitting over there. It's Christmas Eve. Shirley's going to kill me if we don't get home by Christmas. What are you doing? And you've drugged me up here to make a knife deal. And I said, Matt, knife deals are what we do.
Right.
You know, that's how we make our living. So we pulled into the service station, checked the oil. There's nothing in it. We dumped 5 quarts of oil in it, get back in the Blue Goose, and off we race again, going, and we're down about another 30, 40 miles, and we're off in 5 more quarts of oil, and Matt's screaming, Shirley's going to kill me and everything. But we finally made it back to Sevierville, and we had the Indiana Jones knife. And the reason I call this the $1 million knife was we actually sold over $1 million worth of that knife that year. And that whole thing led to what I call the movie knife era of my illustrious career of designing knives, because right about that time Indiana Jones was coming along, and everybody knows about the Indiana Jones buoy.
Oh yeah.
So I loaded up Kit Ray, and we flew to Lucas Ranch. We met with George Lucas. Of course, that was like about 2 minutes. We actually met with a lady named Lucy Audrey that was his licensing agent. But we did get to shake George Lucas's hand and stuff. And so we said, we want to make the Indiana Jones Bowie knife. And they're like, sure, how much up front and how many you going to sell? And we've sold, I don't know how many thousands of these, but there's a huge one on display downstairs in the Knife Works if you're ever in, that the people that made this knife in Taiwan made us in appreciation for this. And when they gave us that, I'm like, well, what about the Rambo knife? You made over $1 million worth of these. So the next year, when they came over for their annual visit, they brought a giant Rambo knife, which is on sale. So anyway, those were the first two items in what I called Knife Trader's Tale of the movie knife era. But then I heard of anybody that knows me or has been in my office always knows that I'm a Star Trek fan. Love Star Wars, everything. I tried forever to license Star Wars. They never would do it. But anyway, and I talked to Paramount Pictures about licensing something, for Star Trek. They never would do it. But this knife is another iconic knife that was the Klingon knife, and it was called the Bird of Prey. And it was just, it was the Klingon knife. And if you've ever watched Star Trek much, you all know Star Trek had Klingons on it, and the Klingons were always bad guy until later on when they became good guys.
Right.
But anyway, so I checked. The name Bird of Prey was not registered for knives. I checked on the design. It was not licensed. It was not trademarked. It was not anything. So I got with the engineers at Camillus Cutlery. His name was Phil Gibbs, and I said, Philly, can we not make that knife? Can you not make that thing? Because he loves Star Trek too, so he was all about it. So he worked for several months, and he developed how to make the gizmo work. And anyway, so we made the knife. We designed the poster. Where's the poster?
We've got it right here.
We designed the poster to go with it because, at that time, Remington posters were doing good. All posters were doing good with knives. And so, anyway, we made up, I think, 2,000 posters and 2,000 knives. And we went to the market, and man, were they selling like hotcakes. Because everybody loved Star Trek. And everybody loved the fact that this knife would just click and you could have fun with it and play with it. So we went along for about 6 or 8 months, and then I get a call from somebody, and they said it's somebody from, I think, Paramount Pictures on the phone, and they want to talk to you. And so I get on the phone, and they say, yes, is this the owner of United Cutlery and Smoky Mountain Knife Works? And I said, sure, you got me. And they said, well, we'd like to talk to you about your knife called Bird of Prey. And I said, well, what about it? What do you want to talk about? I said, you want to buy some? It's selling really good. I'll make you a good deal. And they said, well, no, you can't make that knife. And I said, yes, I can. I actually have a design patent pending on it. And I said, I have registered the name, and you had your rights to defend yourself or object to it, and you didn't, and it's printed, and it's ours, and there's nothing you can do about it really, other than I'll make you a good deal if you want to buy some. And they were like, well, we've done our research, and you're exactly right. There's not really much we can do, except we can probably spend about $4 to $5 million in court and keep you tied up for the next 10 years of your life. And is it worth that to you? And I'm like, well, no, not really. I don't have that kind of money, and I'm not making that much off these knives. And I said, well, what am I going to do? Because I said, I've done everything right, and all you're doing is telling me you're going to outspend me in court and make my life miserable. And they said, well, yeah, that's pretty much it. I said, well, how about this? I said, I've got, and I checked and told them how many knives I had. I said, you let me send you a letter, tell you how many knives I've got. We will not reorder it. We will not rebuy it, but we get to sell them. And when it's done, it's done. And then we'll transfer all the ownership over to you. And they said, that sounds like a very reasonable thing, and we'll do that. So anyway, so that's how the bird of prey had a short, nice, sweet life, but died like all Klingons die, a death fatal. So anyway, that's the bird of prey in the form of movie knives. And then everybody, this I love this story. You're gonna love this story right here. Here was the poster on the Indiana Jones knife, by the way. And all this art was done by Kit Ray and myself. And I never will forget Kit's like, well, what are we going to put this brass guard on there for? He said the original poster of Indiana Jones holding it was like a machete, didn't have that. I said, because it's cool, Kit, and people will love it. And I said, it's just a good design feature. And I was right. People loved it, and we did it.
And there's something that kind of piggybacks along with that came a few years later.
Yeah. Later, I was approached by Lucasfilms because they had seen how many dollars this did, and they were gonna do a new TV series called The Young Indiana Jones. Okay, and so they flew me out to Lucas Ranch to talk about that and go to this party. They sent this it was neater than Wiz invitation in like a basket, and you had this almost like a surface hunt or a scavenge hunt that you find in there and find your ticket number for which seat you're going to sit at. But anyway, so it was called the Chronicles of the Young Indiana Jones, and they wanted me to design a knife for that. And I did that, and I thought to myself, this needs to be a pocket knife. So we did a Swiss Army style knife, and I've got one in my office, and when we break up, I think we can go down there and maybe get a picture of the actual belt. We did a belt buckle because every young kid's got to have a good belt buckle.
You got that right.
And that's an important thing. And then a nice pocket knife. And I think on the back of the knife, I don't know if you'll see that or not, but we put the Morse code. That whatever thing says, because I thought, hey, if you're trapped underground or if you're in a bucket full of snakes, or you got to drink snake blood, you're going to need to know the Morse code because you're going to be in trouble. So anyway, this was a fun time with Lucasfilms, and like I said, the lady's name was Audrey Wilson. That was their licensing agent. She was a great lady, great to work with. Great fast approvals, and it was just a fun time in my life to design these things and bring them, and hopefully they did some good for you, and they'll create some tales that you can someday pass on to your children. So anyway, the Chronicles of the Young Indiana Jones, unfortunately they only aired like 6 or 7 things, and I don't think it kind of didn't do what Indiana Jones did, so it got
the chopping block.
It got chopped and put in the glass, so, it passed out of the TV wonderland. But anyway, no, it's just another little thing.
Super cool
that we did back in the day. But back to the rest of the story. So here, everybody I know will know this guy right here. I'll be back. So anyway, I got approached to design the new knife for the Terminator movie, and I was tickled to death because by then I kind of had a reputation of a good knife designer, doing a lot of Hollywood stuff, paying royalties. I mean, we had our license with Lucasfilms. We had our license on the Rambo knives. We'd done the right thing on the bird of prey, and those people were pretty well happy with us. So when I was asked to do the Terminator knife, I said, well, that's really, really cool. And so I designed, I don't have one of those, but I designed this ring right there because I thought, man, that'll be cool. He can twirl it because, I grew up in the cowboy eras with Roy Rogers, my hero, and every cowboy twirled his gun. And
Those
I thought,
gunslingers, yeah.
yeah, I thought, man, he's a knife slinger. He can twirl that knife. So and they liked the idea, and we did that. So we got the whole thing designed, the knife in, the prototypes. We sent, I think we had to make them 5 or 6 prototypes for them to use in the set. And actually, if you'll go downstairs, going into the knife cave, the original jacket that he wears with the knife in it is on display because they sent that back to me, and the original knife he used in the movie is there on display in the Knife Works. And that's something you might go down and take a shot of that while you're taking a shot of
Did you get to talk about the other photo?
Not yet.
yeah, of the, oh, okay. Yeah, Marco Pipes.
Marco Pipes.
That was one of my earlier designations, was Marco Pipes. But anyway, back. Sorry, I'm digressing. You know how it is when you're an old guy. You just all this stuff comes in your mind. You can't really say anything. All right, all right. So anyway, back to Arnold Schwarzenegger and the Terminator 2 knife. So we get it all done. We get it all designed, we get it in, we send them, and then we're working on the box because really, just like the Bird of Prey box or the Rambo box,
Yeah.
a box is if you're a knife collector, always keep your original box because boxes are really tell the story of the knife and what's inside it. So we get it all done, and we had Arnold's picture here, and we had some cool graphics, kind of like we did with Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones and everything. And so we sent it out for approval. And now you're just going to love this. So they take it and present it to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he says, "Well, I can't approve that because a knife is a violent weapon, and I don't want my picture associated with a violent weapon like a knife." And I'm like, when I heard that, I'm like, dang, he kills 500 people in the movie. Shoots them down. Bam. And he don't want his picture associated with a knife. Well, how about that? I mean, talk about tales of a knife.
Right?
I mean, it's so true. It had to happen.
That's just unbelievable. I don't want to be because I love the movie, but I mean, talk about hypocritical right there.
I mean, yeah, I don't want my picture associated with a violent weapon like a knife. But I'm going to kill 400 people in this movie, and then I wonder how many people he's killed in all his
Thousands, thousands. He is obliterated.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's just an interesting story on the Terminator 2 knife. And I don't know how long you want this tale of the knife trader to continue since you finally got me up here. And then, well, when Chase, my son, came up here and they were talking about Marco Pipes, that was one of my earlier names because really I would get on an airplane and I'd fly and I'd go to the factories because I learned a long, long time ago, if you go to a factory, and it can be a small factory, it can just have 20 or 30 workers, but if it's neat and it's clean and it's nice, you're going to get a good product. Like this factory, when we first went to there, they only had maybe 40 or 50 employees, but it was clean as a pin. You could you could take your chopsticks and you could just eat right off the floor. So, no, not really. But long story short, if the factory was dirty and messy, then you're going to get a piece of crap knife. Trust me, every factory I ever visited, if it was nice, I'd want to buy their product. If it wasn't, I'd just tell the trading company person with me, yeah, tell the factory owner thanks. We appreciate that, and we'll be back to them. And of course, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know how many be back numbers you've been issued.
Oh gosh, yeah. And how many times I've said that to people? Yeah, I'll be back later.
Yeah, I'll be back. Okay,
Back
be
there.
back number 2246. Here you go. You know, I used to do that really,
Yeah.
when people would tell me, we'd be set up selling knives and they for President's Day or something, and they'd say, "Yeah, I'm going to get one of them. I'll be back," and I'd just write a number on my. Okay, you're be back number 62 here, and hand them a piece of paper. There, what? And I'm like, "Yeah, man, you're going to be back." So anyway, but Marco Pipes had some adventurous tales. I'll tell a couple of quick tales about that. About like one time in China, they took me to this place and they were like, "Oh, this is going to be a great meal." And so we're sitting there eating, and they bring a live snake out to the table, and this is almost an Indiana Jones type tale. Trust me. So they bring this live snake out to the table, and they show it to me, and I'm, yeah, great live snake. Just what else can you want besides a good live snake? I'm just hoping I don't have to eat it, swallow it whole. So then they take a cut, they put it there, and they cut the head off, and they catch it in a different thing, and then they drain all the blood out of the snake, and then they cut the little gizzard or whatever out of the snake and plop it in there, and they take this glass and they swirl it, and they make a big deal, and I'm making a big deal. They put it down right in front of me. Now, what are you gonna do, TC?
You can't turn it down. Like
No,
you'll insult everybody there.
So, long story short, man, my brain's working, 90 miles an hour. But so I just picked it up and I swirled it and I sniffed it and I just turned to the factory owner and I turned to the translator and I said, John, translate this exactly as I say it. This is such a privilege and a pleasure to be at this factory and to deal with these honorable people who consider me a friend so good to give me this honor. But I would like to say to the factory owner that without China John here, our trader and our compadre that brought you and I together, this would not be possible. And this honor really is deserved to him, not me and you. And I put the cup down for China John, and he's like, "Oh, yeah." So anyway, and he's happy. The factory owner's happy. And I'm thank God I'm happy. So anyway, that's just some of the knife traders' tales. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Oh, and yeah, Brian wanted me to bring up and mention this because, all this happened years and years ago, but not long ago, I got to thinking, what two great knives were, the Rambo knife, and hold that up, and the Indiana Jones knife. And I thought, I always loved the blade shape of the Rambo knife. And I thought, I need to bring those back because in my career I've designed, I don't know, close to 10,000 different knives and brought them to market. But I thought, these were two of the greatest knives I ever did, and I had more fun with them. Didn't have to do nothing but pass the snake glass around. And so I designed this knife, and it's called the Raiders Bowie. Okay, and it's kind of a combination, and it's coming out soon. It's not
Beautiful.
Not on the market, but it's got the brass spine on it that just looks good and it is cool. And then it's got the nice. We didn't want to take away from the Rambo knife, but we just put a nice deep blood groove in there. But that classic Bowie blade shape. Let me hold it over here. Let me hold it right there, TC. You want to drink some snake?
I'm gonna pass that honor on to Isaac.
Yeah. Isaac, come over here. Hey, we like you so much. We'll give you a bowl of black chicken soup. So anyway, and we'll say black chicken soup and Tales of the Puppy and everything else for another time. But anyway, long story short, just we hope you buy this new knife when it comes out, and we really, really hope that you enjoy Tales of the Knife Trader too. And I think when it was Case President's Day, we talked to Eddie Jessup,
I think we've got some good stories about y'all's interaction.
about Eddie and I and Smoky's long term 40 plus years relationship with W.R. Case. And I'd like to just throw out this. Eddie, get ready. Number 3 is going to be me and you, boss.
I think that
Thank you.
sounds great.
All right. Thanks,
Kevin,
BC.
thanks so much. Absolutely.
And we'll stay tuned. And we got more tales than you've got film.